What's the cringiest thing you've seen a bride and groom do for their wedding? Not wedding but engagement ceremony. They reenacted a scene from an old romantic film, about two lovers in 1800s, in front of like 300 people. Sorry. Engagement ceremony. What's that? A way to spend money you don't realize you need and to invite others to spend money on gifts to replenish your out-of-pocket costs for hosting the event in the first place. At the reception, the groom and his groomsmen sung a god-awful a cappella version of "Stand By Me." The worst part was he wasn't even singing it to his wife. He was singing it to his mum. Oh darling, darling, stand by me. Chinese weddings, man. I was a photographer for a wedding where the bride was marrying a man with 2 kids from a previous relationship. I was in the bridal suite when the bridal party was getting ready and all of the bridesmaids had matching silk robes. The flower girl groom's daughter was there too. They asked me to take a group photo of the bridal party and one of the women in a silk robe was standing awkwardly to the side. I thought she was just shy or something, so I waved her into the photo and the room got dead silent and the bride was like, "Oh no, we don't want her in the photos," and glared at me like I should have known that. Apparently she was the groom's ex-wife and was there to take care of the flower girl, but why did you give her a matching bridesmaid robe? I wanted to crawl in a hole and die. I'm in the wedding industry. I've been to over 3,000 weddings. The singing your vows thing is never ever going to work out like you think it will. Never sing your vows. Never attempt to sing any part of your wedding. It will not go as you visualized it. A wedding day is not a good time for surprises. Don't surprise your bride with an unexpected part of the ceremony. Don't surprise your mom by the wedding itself. True story. The bride told her mom she was going to an engagement dinner. The only exception to this rule is if you give the bride a surprise addition to her ring, grandma's diamond, a ring made from her parents' rings, etc. Jokes about sex later are never funny. They make people uncomfortable, and it makes you look like an adolescent. There will always be crickets after you make the joke. If you are going to be late, communicate that to everyone somehow. Have your sir, or your parents, or someone tell everyone you will be late. The staff needs to know, especially if you forget the rings. Don't stress it. It's a funny story. If you forget your vows, wing it as best you can, just don't sing. Ask the officiant for help for last-minute vows. Finally, don't get drunk and be an ass. You don't want to be that guy. Plus, if you are drunk, you won't be able to have sex later. Crickets. Long ago I worked at a banquet hall and witnessed a fully NASCAR-themed wedding. During the reception they played the audio of the proposal going out over the PA at the track. It was fully unintelligible. Other highlights were the owner locking himself in his office to avoid the bride's father because he was threatening him to haggle on the costs. In the end we had to call the police because the bride in gown climbed over the bar to steal more sweet MGD after we had closed the taps and the event was over. Dated a girl in my 20s and went to her friend's wedding in upstate New York. In the middle of the service the minister's cell phone rang. He answered. It was God. God wanted to talk to the groom. Conversation lasted a couple minutes. Then the ceremony continued. This was more so the bride's family. One of my first classmates to get married, we were approximately 19, had a small reception. Mostly family and friends from high school, nothing wrong with that. They decided to auction off the garter belt, and whoever won took it off the bride. Most of us were poor college students, so the only people bidding were her dad and uncles. It was super uncomfortable. This happened right before our wedding. We were set to have my now husband's family friend, that's a pastor, be our officiant. I am not religious whatsoever but open to anything. My husband's late mother was a Sunday school teacher and so his family is pretty religious. Anyway, we went to the pastor's house to go over our wedding plans and everything, and he asked me if I was going to center my marriage around God. The answer was no. It got awkward real fast. It became a back and forth as to why I won't accept Jesus and how awful that is. He didn't like it either. We were getting married at a country club. He then refused to do the wedding. We scrambled and found our town's mayor to marry us. I made my own ceremony and wrote the whole thing from scratch. Then the day of the wedding the mayor mentioned her recent back surgery and just wanted to get this over with. She called my husband Eric multiple times. His name is Evan and she was high on painkillers, so she went off script there for a bit. Have you ever watched I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry? Yeah, she did. The whole marriage is a circle script. It took everything we had not to die laughing. And that pastor, he showed up and watched the whole thing go down. We got a picture with him at our wedding. Him and his wife cropped us out of it and he made it his profile picture. Requiring every attendee to bring a date because she didn't want sad, lonely people on her day. Not my friends luckily, but pretended to be a friend's date because she really wanted to see her cousin get married. My uncle not only brought up his daughter's ex-boyfriend in his speech but talked about their toxic relationship for a solid 5 minutes. I highly recommend preparing a speech before talking in front of a room full of people. In-laws wedding, and groom and all groomsmen were wearing a tux and a bald cap. The groom had a dip of tobacco in during the wedding, and I shit you not, his groom's cake was designed like a Copenhagen can. They sang their vows to each other. Neither had a singing voice. Vows were generally batshit crazy, like submissive in the bedroom, and not asking about where she was going. The auto-tune microphones were a terrible idea. Their vow songs shared a chorus and it was awful, and they expected the guests to sing along with the chorus. The vow singing lasted 20 minutes. Pure cringe. The minister or pastor used to date the bride and gushed about how wonderful she was. Told the groom if he ever died not to worry, he'd take care of her. I was shell-shocked. I so wished I could think of a reason to ask the couple for a copy of the video of their wedding but couldn't quite find a legit one. Not the couple. The pastor kept saying "Our Heavenly Father, Daddy God," while marrying them. Potluck wedding with no alcohol or music. Groom kept showing people his flask and bragging about it. Macaroni was only redeemable thing. When I went to scoop there was hair in it. Very sad. When I was 11 my cousin got married for the 3rd time. I never really liked her because A, she was 37 when I was 11. We didn't have a lot in common, and B, she was pretty full of herself. The wedding itself was fine. Pretty boring but fine. Then we get to the reception. We were told we had to sit down as soon as we got there. Some people found it weird, but I've only been to one other wedding before this. Her other marriages were when I was little. No kids were allowed at her weddings, so I didn't think anything of it. The bride and groom then make a huge dramatic entrance and everyone awkwardly clapped for them as they strutted around the room with actual crowns on their heads. The bride then gets the microphone and hands it to her mom and asks her to say something she loves about the bride. She then tells her mom to pass it on and says she wants everyone in the room to say one thing they absolutely love about the bride. Not the bride and groom, not their relationship, just the bride herself. It was super awkward. I said, "Your eyeshadow is pretty," because I felt so awkward and wanted to die. My older brother said pass, which made her force a fake laugh and urge him to say something. He ignored it and she kept insisting, so he said, "Your parents," and passed the mic on. She and husband 3 divorced a few months later because he was caught cheating with an 18-year-old still in high school. He gave off bad pedo vibes to the point where even strangers noticed and wanted kids to stay away from him. She married another guy a few years later and they are still together. Bonus, she likes to take pictures with a life-sized cutout of Trump and post it on Facebook because she, her mom, and sister believe it looks surreal. Nope, and she even pretends she's been caught cheating on husband 4 with cutout, posting pictures of her kissing it or it in her room with a caption like "Oops, caught with my side piece," or some cringe like that. Husband is also a hard Trump supporter, so he laughs about it, but her daughter from marriage 2 deleted her from Facebook and often stays with her dad because she can't stand her mom anymore. Her humility. Oh, let's see. Groom changed who his best man was and didn't tell the original BM until the start of the ceremony. Bride and groom asked a guest to bartend the reception at the reception. Groom dirty danced with his stepmom full hands on ass. Bride and groom hauled their wedding party up to do a choreographed dance to Meatloaf's Paradise by the Dashboard Lights, but didn't give them any pre-warning or teach them the dance. That song is 8.5 minutes long. Wedding was at a scenic boarding school campus during the summer. Guests were told dormitories were complimentary to stay in. Guests were not told there would be no bedding provided or AC in the building. Groom later emailed everyone who stayed in a dorm asking for money. Same bride and groom chose another friend's wedding reception as the right setting to yell at a third pair of mutual friends for not including them in their wedding party. At my cousin's wedding, they did the thing where the groom removes the bride's garter and tosses it to all the single guys. I guess none of the guys wanted to be next to be married, because once the groom tossed the garter, no one grabbed it. It just landed on the ground a few feet in front of a crowd of motionless guys. The groom tossed the garter 3 times before one guy half-heartedly picked it off the ground. The bride wouldn't look at any of those guys for the rest of the night. It's such an outdated tradition. I've been to a wedding where something similar happened with the bouquet toss and all the ladies backed away when the bouquet was thrown. The DJ ended up making a joke about it though, and everyone had a good, slightly awkward, laugh. I wasn't a guest. I was working the wedding. The bride got drunk and sat on some other dude's lap for 2 hours and flirted with him while the groom sat by himself at the head table with a defeated look on his face. This might be the most depressing one yet. It's a tie between my sister breaking her knee seriously at her own wedding dancing to the Cotton-Eyed Joe and my stepsister having her reception at an honest-to-God truck stop while 6 months pregnant. In her defense, the food was good, but wow was it weird walking through a gas station in formal wear.